Right, so when you guys think about the city, you picture the buildings, the people who go about their day, and what has recently become an image of this modern city is street art. In my opinion, the only way for someone to truly appreciate the value of contemporary street art is to understand the history involved, the opposing sides, and the purpose behind the movement. So I will be discussing both sides of street art, emphasizing the side that is overshadowed by the rebellious act, which is the artistic movement that represents our culture of today. So I'll just start with a brief history so you guys can understand where it started and how it began and how it evolves, because most people can connect graffiti on a wall to gang violence or gang connotations. So writing on public structures as a form of rebellion can be tracked back many centuries, but graffiti as an activity in and of itself is widely recognized as having its origins in New York City. So I got a book and just to further my knowledge on where it started, and in Taking the Train, the author Joe Austin links tagging one's name on a wall to the way that it would be like seeing your name on the lights, because in New York City there's a lot of signs and lights, and it explains how in New York City this started because people want to see their name on the lights, and it just kind of popularizes their name, and that's the way it started, just a simple name on a wall. Then later he introduces the unique style in New York that initiated graffiti and states, in the United States, to see one's name in the lights is to achieve an exalted public status in the eyes of the world. And the phrase still carries strong connotations with Broadway in making it in the city that never sleeps. It is important to understand that this originated in New York because this has influenced many other street artists in other great cities like Japan, Paris, Australia, because there's a lot of people in these areas, and so the point gets across. And it's really easy to raise the awareness of these ideas. First, graffiti artists, or also known as taggers and writers, would usually sign their name of the street they lived on, and so everyone who read it knew who was responsible. This was a way of popularizing oneself among gang members in New York. So soon this transformed into a way that the artists can represent a nickname, and they started having a nickname for their names. And this kind of separated them with a gang affiliation. And the author of the book explains how Tacky 183 is credited for separating this and making it an art movement. He started stylizing the writing and then having characters aside, and this is where it all began. So this is important to understand because many are turned off to graffiti because, like I said, people think that it's affiliated with gangs. So soon the shapes, the colors, and everything changed as to mediums, and now people use stencils and different things, like even like taking a street sign and making it look different, or adding things to a street sign, just to open one's eyes. So now I will be explaining the opposing side and the counterparts of why people are against graffiti art. One of the strongest cases that graffiti art is not accepted is because people think that it is simple vandalism and not art. This is a line that is frequently used against street art. Banksy, the world's most popular street artist, has recently become popular in the mainstream. This has angered many people who do not see the quality or validity in street art. So if not a lot of you know who Banksy is, he's mostly known for doing his stencil work, and he adds like different like characters and quotes, and mostly is trying to say messages to society. And when I go to LA, I see his artwork everywhere, and it's also everywhere around the world. And what I think is actually really fascinating is that sometimes when you see it, like for example at Amoeba in LA, he did a piece of Alfred Hitchcock on the wall, and it hasn't been removed. And I guess this just shows how the city embraces the art, and it's just being accepted now in our modern times. So that's why I'm explaining to you guys that is the movement of the art movement of our time. So I read an article against people against Banksy, just so you can understand why people don't appreciate it. the art community might be willing to idealize Banksy for the average person, there is nothing artsy or glamorous in graffiti, no higher message or of rebellion against authority or the artistic expression to be gleaned, just a mess that has to be cleaned up by someone. And I got an opinion from someone else. I was talking to Richard, and he was explaining that he doesn't care how beautiful the artwork is or how artistic it is. If you see it on the freeway, it's distracting. And that is understandable, because people that are driving, you don't want to see this artwork on like a street sign in a freeway that you need to look at if it's important to you. There is a difference between fine arts and urban art. Fine arts can be defined as art with great skill, accomplishment, and aesthetic pleasure. And street art is usually done on public property, often illegally. And while fine arts is done on a blank surface or canvas provided by the artists themselves. The reason people are angry at street artist Banksy is because he is defacing public property and popularizing the idea of an illegal activity. So it is understandable why people believe that Banksy is not a role model to the youth and that he is a bad person because he is popularizing the idea of this illegal activity. Although there are laws against it, which are reasonable, street art holds significance through its purpose to influence the audience. So most art pieces have intentions and message. Similarly, most street artists are trying to communicate a message through their pieces. And what detractors of street art fail to realize is that street art serves a purpose and has a message that is important to both the artist and the intent viewer. It is widely accepted that the great Renaissance artist Michelangelo conveyed hidden meanings and messages within his art. That is, to the untrained eye, was nothing more than a beautiful piece of classical art, and to the educated viewer, a satire on many problems he had with the world around him. And this can connect to many art movements. For example, Picasso, he does the abstract. He was breaking conventions of art and wasn't going with classic style that was going on in this time. And many people didn't accept it for that. And just like people didn't accept the abstract art, and just like Michelangelo is using veiled messages, this is also very true among street artists who choose to get their message across. Their point is to provoke people, otherwise why not just stay at home and draw alone on the table? So the point is to get the point across to people, and they do this by doing it in cities because, like I said before, there are many people and it gets the point across, just like New York City. For example, one of the pieces done by an anonymous artist is in front of a staircase and an escalator. In front of the staircase is an image of what it looks like the image of a person in like a men's restroom. And it points towards the staircase, and the other one is the same image, but it's made to look overweight, and it points towards the escalator. So this is just trying to promote, just trying to bring out the idea of the sedentary lifestyle in America and trying to make a difference and trying to tell something to society. So the element of designs in street art has not been accepted by many people, and the government especially. The fact that it is illegal to deface private property is not important to the artist. What is important is to deliver the warning or the message to the public. It is like a conversation and the connection with the It is democracy and the voice of the less powerful, to be heard in the rawness of a concrete wall for everybody to see. So in order for these both sides to benefit, there should be a common ground where there is no law breaking and the art is still being promoted. And one way I thought about it is just like Venice Beach, California. Some of you guys don't know, on the walls there are artists who are allowed to paint on there. You sign an artist agreement, you get a permit, and you're able to write on the walls and keep your medium, because street artist canvas is on a wall, just like other artists use different mediums for their art. So focusing on having concentrated areas open for artists to paint on walls legally is a smart solution to the problem. Artists with a valid permit are able to paint on a wall, and therefore the supporting of the arts remains. So in conclusion, there is no contemporary street art without the main founders of the artists that have made an impact. This art movement will contribute to art history, and this is important to understand because it is everywhere we go. Although street art is frowned upon for its obvious reasons, the community of street artists has impacted large cities around the world, and they continue to raise awareness of